In today's video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about how to maximize energy, creativity, clarity, and your decision-making abilities, provided you're willing to put in place the principles I'm discussing with you guys today. I'll be talking to you guys about the absolute must tools when it comes to optimizing focus, energy, output, crystal clear clarity, and decision-making abilities. And 95% of what that process entails, and how to maximize biohacking as a tool when it comes to optimizing your business performance. Without the sciencey stuff, the biochemistry aspect of things, I'm going to break it down into very, very simple terms, and then from there my key hacks in order to make this happen. So I want to dive into the key hacks and tricks when it comes to optimizing your success and business performance without diving into the biochemistry too much and without boring you guys to the sciencey aspect of things in terms of information. So here are going to be the very clear practical application steps you guys can put in place. And in terms of this process, when it comes to optimizing your biochemistry, your health, and your performance, entrepreneurs tend to make this way too complicated, and they never focus on fixing the core issues. So similarly to how, for example, if your car would break down, you should be focusing on how to fix the engine and retweak the engine to get it performing at a high level again, or the brake pads, whatever it may be. Entrepreneurs apply that process and they kind of focus on their health similarly to like putting a spoiler on the back of their car if their engine's broken down. It just doesn't make any sense. They're adding way too many supplements, way too many variables to be thinking about. So as I said, guys, I'm gonna break it down to the very clear and actionable processes when it comes to optimizing your focus, energy, output, clarity, and decision-making abilities, without making it too sciencey and too much based around the biochemistry aspect of things. So breaking it down in simple terms, you guys can apply that straight away. I will not be diving into any form of time management or any process around that topic. I'm gonna break it down into very simple variables and key processes here. So let's dive straight into it as opposed to adding in too much fluff. So in simple terms, all being successful in entrepreneurship requires is your ability to make decisions with clear clarity. So we're gonna break it down into two key variables here, primarily around sleep, and then from there also inflammation and brain fog, in terms of how we mitigate that, hack your IQ, hack your ability to create decisions, and then from there get into a state of flow when it comes to thought-making processes. So you can't make good decisions if you don't have energy, clarity, and your ability to focus and concentrate on the task at hand. So this is where it comes into the process of fixing this part and 10xing your work performance when it comes to your business. And that's what we'll be focusing on very much so today. So your IQ is responsible for your creativity, willpower, and your equivalent to your engine in business is very simple. If you can't maximize that aspect of things, how are you going to ensure that you can create good decisions with your business and then from there take your business to the next level? So let's dive straight into it to ensure that you have the engine of a Formula One car rather than a Toyota Prius. And from there, you're sat behind a desk and you're maximizing 50% of what you could be day to day. So first and foremost, let's dive into the aspect of sleep. And you guys know that if you're working with me currently, or if you've seen any of my YouTube videos previously speaking, you know that I love to tackle the aspect of sleep, because when it comes to optimizing your biochemistry, I'm going to refer to again, optimizing your energy, clarity, creativity, and decision-making abilities, sleep is such a fundamental variable in that process. So the way we're going to hack your sleep and the way we're going to approach this when it comes to maximizing the 95% of what you can be doing, very simple first action item is testing your sleep chronotype. So if any of you guys are aware of the Power of When quiz produced by Michael Bruce, you simply go online, you simply carry out the test, and then from there determine your sleep chronotype. And it's so simple, it takes you like 2-3 minutes. Test what your sleep chronotype is. It's going to highlight when you should be going to sleep, what your sleep start and end time should be based off your chronotype, and then from there also key personality traits in terms of that process, whether it comes to decision-making abilities, when you should be working at certain times, etc. So for myself as an individual, my chronotype is a bear. So I'm in line with 50% of the population worldwide. Most individuals in this space are bear chronotypes. So personally speaking, my sleep start and end times are 12 and then 8 o'clock in the morning as my sleep start and end times, okay? The second most important factor, other than adhering to your chronotype when it comes to maximizing your sleep, is regulating your circadian rhythm. Tip number 2, very simple, hack number 2. Circadian rhythm basically being your body's natural clock as such. So from there, when I mean maximizing your circadian rhythm, what I actually mean by that is staying consistent with your sleep start and end time. So for example, for myself, I go to bed at 12 o'clock every night, I'm asleep by 12 o'clock, and I wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning every day. That ensures that my circadian rhythms are regulated, hormonally speaking, I'm functioning well. I don't deal with any brain fog, I deal with optimal hormonal functions. So from there, my abilities to create decisions, function with energy, and then have clarity throughout the day are maximized. It's super simple. Tip number 3, wear your Oura ring. Track your sleep metrics, hugely key. If you guys have followed Sam Ovens, whoever it may be in the consulting space, you will understand that Oura ring is incredibly important when it comes to optimizing your biochemistry, hacking your sleep, and similarly to how if you want to improve your finances, you check your banking data very frequently. If you want to optimize your sleep and performance of that, you check your Oura ring. Just tick that box off. Okay, so when it comes to maximizing your REM and deep sleep, which are two most important variables in terms of your sleep quality, regulating your circadian rhythms feed directly into that. So as a fourth action item, you want to be maximizing your deep and REM sleep. Super simple. Tip number 5, or hack number 5, when it comes to maximizing energy, creativity, thought processes, etc., decision-making abilities. Wear blue light blockers. As you can see on screen, I'm wearing mine now. I also have this pair over here. If you guys don't have access to blue light blockers, then simply use flux on your screens. So as opposed to working on your desktop late at night or your laptop late at night, and not only having night mode on from Apple, because I'm assuming most of you guys work on Apple products like most of the guys in this space do, ignore night mode. It's pretty awful. You want to utilize flux instead. It's a free download on Google Chrome. And from there, it'll also respond to a time zone. So it'll actually set a lower frequency of light when it hits sunset. So for example, in the UK, that's currently 7 o'clock in the evening. And then from there, an hour later, it'll then work on evening mode where the spectrum of light is much darker. So it's more like an orange, kind of replicating the sunset. Okay, so that's gonna be much more beneficial to you guys when it comes to your sleep as well. Now, here's an action item that not many people talk about. And again, I don't want to dive into the science aspect of things too much. I want to keep this very simple and very clear in terms of actionable application steps for you guys. The 5th hack is going to be testing your body for heavy metals. Super simple, and it's something which most people tend to ignore, or they've either haven't heard of that concept before. So for example, I actually had a call with my consulting clients, Oriel, in the e-commerce space, and he's going to come over to the UK to stay with me for a period of time to test out his heavy metals in his body, because I'm quite frankly in the belief that he might have heavy metal mercury poisoning in his system right now. So mercury interrupts the connections and nerve impulses in the brain, and it affects normal functioning in the brain, especially when it comes to hormonal production, and then from there feeling agitated, not being able to deal with stress, which is obviously very clearly heightened when it comes to running your own business. Okay, very simple. So mercury affects the normal functioning of the brain and causing a very high level of agitation and anxiety, which is actually very clearly indicated when it comes to your HRV metrics as well. Not to dive into science of it, but if you guys have used the Oura ring before, you know what HRV is. Okay, so these feelings will show up when you try to rest and will surely affect your night of sleep. So for example, Oriel, we're carrying out his mercury test with myself when he comes over to the UK. So that's tip number 5 or hack number 5. Okay, when your body is severely affected by excess acidity, and then from there high levels of heavy metals, it cannot relax, heal, repair, or detox effectively. In other words, in terms of inflammation, it's going to be very high in the body, and as a result of that, your sleep quality is going to be pretty dire, and also your ability to make decisions every day, because inflammation is going to show up in your body in the form of brain fog. When you wake up first thing and you feel like you can't make any decisions properly, no information is going in properly, that's brain fog. Okay, so heavy metal poisoning is something we really have to test. Okay, final hack when it comes to sleep and optimizing your energy, clarity, your ability to make decisions, and then from there have a key focus throughout the day. Very simple, testing supplements. Okay, so I'm personally not a massive fan of including huge amounts of supplements in terms of your routines and processes. As you can see on screen here, I've actually got a few supplements that I purchased today or picked up today that I'm gonna share with you guys. But when it comes to optimizing your sleep, I'm not a massive fan of my clients or myself personally pulling out a drawer of 30 supplements and taking every pill under the sun to maximize your sleep. Again, we're focusing on 95% of things which are going to optimize your biochemistry, okay? Not the finer details here. So we're just going to focus on the simple, applicable action items for you guys here today. So supplements, we're not going to dive into too much, but when it comes to maximizing your sleep quality, I'd very much advise utilizing adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha, reishi spore, rhodiola rosa, or ginseng. Now, what these are going to do as products, they're going to keep you very much more like relaxed, tranquil at night as well, and then minimize your awake time as well. So as opposed to having 8 hours of sleep and only 6 hours of efficient sleep, you have a full 8 hours of fully optimized sleep, 2.5 hours of REM, 2.5 hours of deep sleep. Super simple action item. Okay, cool. Now we're moving into digestion, which is going to be responsible primarily for your energy and clarity. So you guys will know, and I talk about this often in videos, that if you've had poor quality food, you often wake up the next day and you feel like, in terms of brain fog, it's insane. There's no way you can sit down at work and focus for 10 to 12 hours per day and have an optimized 10 to 12 hour work day. It's just the last thing possible, okay? So again, what we're talking about in today's video is very, very simple: how to maximize energy, clarity, and creativity, and increase your decision-making abilities. Digestion is such a hugely important part of that process, along with sleep. So we're gonna dive into how we tackle that aspect of things. So first and foremost, we're gonna apply the principle of not eating when you're working, if possible. Now, most of you guys have heard of intermittent fasting as a process, or they've incorporated that previously, but you probably haven't heard of the process of not eating when you're working at all. So for example, like 10 to 12 hours of your day, you haven't eaten a food source. That kind of sounds terrifying to the majority of you, I'm sure. And most of you kind of used to being on fed a buffet of food consistently, like 4 or 5 meals per day. And you tend to utilize that time as a break away from work. But if you really want to maximize your creativity, energy, focus, and decision-making abilities for 8 to 10 hours per day, don't eat. It's super simple, okay? So if your tank is full, it'll take a lot of energy to digest your food. And the most energy consuming process is actually digestion of food, not cognitive processes or thinking on certain tasks. It's literally just digesting food. So if you want to maximize cognitive function, just don't eat. And it's so much more difficult from a mental perspective rather than a physical standpoint, but it's amazing when used correctly, okay? So I'm personally eating, currently speaking, I work until about 4 in the afternoon, then carry out a workout for about an hour. I've carried out all my deep focus work tasks for the day by that point. I then eat in my eating window between 6 to 8 on the majority of days, so I only eat 1 meal per day, in which I consume roughly 3,500 calories, but I can dive into that in another video for you guys in terms of how I tackle my caloric consumption as well. Okay, so second action item when it comes to digestion, which is again responsible for energy and clarity, is very simple: follow a low inflammation diet. Super simple. So in terms of food sources you should be consuming, you should have already carried out a stool test like Viome, or from their blood panel test, which makes you aware of food sources you're allergic to, or cause inflammation, which can cause brain fog and then really screw up your decision-making ability. So for example, the foods I currently eat, I've got a list here for you guys, is salmon, sea bass, meat sources, which are fatty meat sources and red meat sources, or poultry, which are easy to digest, MCT oil, olive oil, fibrous green vegetables, carbohydrate sources, and then from there fuel shakes as well. So often when I'm breaking my fast, I tend to have something like chicken sauce, mainly very minimal amounts of carbohydrates, so high in fibrous green vegetables, and then from there something like an avocado or olive oil, whatever it may be. So things which are easy to digest and will go through my body very quickly, okay? Otherwise, in terms of my focus and output, it's just gonna be very minimal for the day, okay? So get rid of inflammation and inflammatory food sources by carrying out a SIBO breath test, a nutrient analysis test, your Viome test, or from there any other form of inflammation test. Very simple. And also test for heavy metal poisoning as well, like micro poisoning also, okay? When it comes to also mitigating inflammation, we have these 3 supplements I want to talk to you guys about today, or maybe 2 actually. So we have coconut charcoal, which is essentially activated charcoal, which is produced by Bulletproof. I'm a massive fan of that product, okay? And from there, it's going to minimize any inflammation that you feel when it comes to, again, declining cognitive performance and brain fog. So I take this first thing in the morning. I also then take Cumin Max, which is essentially turmeric, which is again another anti-inflammatory food. And then from there, first thing upon waking, I also utilize apple cider vinegar, pink Himalayan sea salt, and then from there normally some lemon juice as well. Very simple, as like a morning concoction to get myself going. Prevent cortisol from being presented through my body or flushed through my body for such a long period of time. So from there, when it comes to cognitive processes, my first 4 hours of work are hugely high. So guys, in conclusion for this video, I've talked to you guys about how to maximize energy, clarity, creativity, and increase your ability to make key decisions. In very simple terms, without diving into the biochemistry aspect of things too much. So making you guys aware of the 95% of things you should be applying when it comes to your sleep and digestion, as opposed to the nitty-gritty details which aren't so applicable to the majority of you at this point, unless you're an individual doing like 7 figures, 8 figures, you really want to take your biochemistry to the next level so you can take your business to the next level. But yeah, we're focusing on the surface layer here, and again, removing the element of entrepreneurs making this process too complicated and putting a spoiler on their car when realistically all they should be doing is changing the engine. Super simple, that's how we're going to apply this. So hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. Leave any questions that you have in the comments section below, and give this video a thumbs up as well.